Thanks very much. Thank you very much to everyone in the room. Really do appreciate the fact it is the last session of the day, and thank you for actually turning up, and hopefully you won't fall asleep. We really want this to be like an interactive session. We've not kind of come here today to reinvent the wheel or anything like that. Wanted to just let you know a little bit more about what we're hearing from candidates and companies who are hiring technology candidates at the moment, and hopefully answer any questions that you guys here have. So just to introduce myself, I head up the team in the UK. Hired's been running for about 5 years. We started in the US. We opened in the UK a couple of years ago. Our focus is purely on technology roles. So we've developed a platform that makes it far more easy for a software developer to find a job in a straightforward way, almost an enjoyable way to find a new job. And in the flip side of that, it makes it far easier for companies to reach out and actually hire top quality tech candidates in a very candidate-driven market. So introducing Will, who's a colleague of mine who spends basically his entire life speaking to tech candidates.
Yeah, how you doing, guys? I'm Will. I promise I'll update my picture for the next time. Go to San Francisco and get one as good as Gordon's. So I worked at Apple for 4 years. That's where I started my career. Then I worked for an advertising agency for a year. And I've been with Hired for a year, actually, last week. I spend all my day talking to software engineers, about 100 every week. So that's a lot of people I kind of meet over the year. And the stuff we're going to go through today, like some of it may seem a little bit obvious, or you may be a little bit like, I know, but the stuff we're talking about like really is firsthand from the software engineers in London. We'll go over a little bit about the 3 kind of key themes we're going to talk through. A big one is around like the kind of being efficient and like successful throughout your processes when you're hiring. The moral of the story is the faster the better, but we're going to go into a little bit more about what that means like for hiring managers, and what that means for the experience of the candidates. Like, a big thing I've Hired and a big thing about me and my career is like I really believe in delivering an amazing experience to our candidates. Like, I believe like that's our role we play in culture, as in the world we live in. Like, finding a job shouldn't be this kind of horrific experience. That's something like I feel really passionate about, so we'll talk about that. Gordon's going to talk a little bit around how to resonate with engineering talent. How can you kind of connect with them on a real level that's like truly real to them and their job search? And then we'll talk a little about kind of closing talent, some kind of data we've got from our salary reports, and ultimately getting to yes. Feel free to like jump in with any questions like throughout the presentation. We're going to have loads of time at the end for questions, but feel free to chip in. So yeah, successful and efficient hiring. So a big thing, and I think it's already kind of come up today, is around like truly define like what it is you need, so you know when you found it. Again, like it sounds kind of obvious. Like, as a company grows and scales, like, it's so important for everybody to kind of be crystal clear on, like, what it is they're looking for, what's the brief. Like, is everybody clear on what the brief is? So when you found it, you know you've truly found it and everyone's aligned with that. That kind of will speed up the process, reduce ambiguity, and ultimately help you kind of close the right candidates at the right time. We'll talk a lot about kind of culture and values. It's just as important as, like, a candidate's salary or their tech stack. Like we talk a lot about it at Hired, but the culture of the company you work for, like, is so important. Like, it's more than just salary. It's more than just kind of earning loads of money. People like want to work for mission-driven companies. They want to feel that they're part of changing the world we live in. Gordon will talk a bit more about that. We found in one of our reports that 53% of people, they hate their jobs because of their company culture. And I still believe like companies need to do more around combating this. And then the final thing, like we say, is like, again, very obvious around that, build a playbook. Like, really define like what the skill set is, how will what you're looking for really like suit and kind of add to your culture. Not looking for somebody just to blend into your culture, but as you diversify, scale, and grow and develop out your culture, how is the talent you're hiring going to help you with that mission? And next slide. And yeah, like we did want to talk a little bit about our hiring process. We're in the biz, like we're kind of good at it. The average time to hire at Hired is 17 days. And again, like it has to be an amazing experience for that candidate going throughout that process. So we have like over 50 engineers in San Francisco. Nidhi, who's our Senior Vice President of Engineering, has been in the Valley for 20 years. And she kind of came in last year and kind of redefined what our hiring process looks like. Again, kind of straightforward, but like very streamlined. And it allows us to get amazing talent through the door quickly, and having the whole team aligned. So the first stage is 30-minute call with a recruiter or hiring manager just to assess skill set. We don't do tech tests. I work with candidates, and the biggest thing or the biggest drop-off throughout the funnel is these tech tests. Like, a candidate can go live on a Monday, and by the end of the day, they've got 12, 15 interview requests. That's 12, 15, 20-minute phone conversations they're going to have with hiring managers, and I don't know, maybe like 7 or 8 tech tests that may take 2, 3, 4 hours. And so what we've done is, like, we go through a technical phone screen, but the big one is the third on-site. They spend the day with us. They'll go through their coding review, they'll hang out with the team, they'll have breakfast and lunch with the team, and ultimately that is the day where we assess their skill set. And then the final stage is final sign-off with Nidhi, who's our head of engineering.
And I know it's a tough thing. I've worked in recruitment for a long time to push back on hiring managers, and you're going to be in a situation where people we need to do the coding challenge, we need to send people a coding test, but it's about remaining competitive in a really candidate-driven market. And this is a huge, like, number 3 here, from speaking to Nidhi, like, the team have to invest so much time in that day because they're bringing somebody into the office. It's like a whole day experience. So the key thing is to kind of get number 1 and number 2 as good as you can, so that the only people are getting to number 3 are really, really worth it, because that's a huge investment of time from our engineers, our SVP of engineering, and other people that actually get involved in that process. But the feedback that we've had from engineers in San Francisco, which is a really even more candidate-driven market, is they really like that candidate experience because we've kind of spoken to them. It's been a two-way process. They've had a bit of a pitch from us. They've had the opportunity to ask questions, but we haven't sent them that coding test. We've just brought them in and actually asked to invest more time in, let's see how you work in a real-life situation. Let's see what that actually looks like. And the feedback we've had has been really good. Yeah, sure. So I think the question was essentially, your business is operating with quite a high degree of confidentiality in the clients that you're working with, and therefore there's kind of security and potential trust and data issues and that sort of stuff. So it's quite like a unique situation. Like, maybe you would have to revert back to just sending them a coding test on the basis that what you do on a day-to-day basis is confidential, and therefore you can't do that. But if there was I don't know if there was a way to anonymize the data or use historic stuff that might not be live, but still give people the opportunity to come in and meet the team and interact with them and actually have that conversation across the table about how would you solve this problem? What would you do? What was the approach that you would take to actually, write this code? You can still see someone's mentality and you can watch them and interact with them, but not be doing it on live data, which might be extremely sensitive. That's, I guess a challenge that you have to deal with. Doesn't sound like a fun one.
No.
But just finding that opportunity to make it more personable and more human, because the reality is we're seeing a real mix at the moment of companies moving away from coding tests and doing more of this stuff. And the market is such at the moment that if I'm a candidate and I'm getting approached by 5, 6 different companies, and 2 or 3 of them actually do this more in-depth one with me and show me a bit more love and attention and, on that, and actually care more about what I'm doing and listen to my thought process, I'm probably going to end up working for one of those companies than the ones that sent me the coding challenge. Not always, but we're seeing a trend in that direction for sure.
Yeah, we haven't really. It's a tough question, but we're not saying everybody should do this, and not everybody can. And it sounds like if I was speaking to a candidate about this would be one of the ones where they would have to go away and invest 2 or 3 hours into that test. And if they were really invested in the process, then they would do that. It's just around how can we make it less time-consuming and overwhelming for a candidate. Because a candidate will say to you on Tuesday morning, Will, I've got 12 interview requests and 7 coding challenges. What's your advice? And the companies that are able to be this agile around kind of having a lot of their kind of work done in one piece, they're the ones that they'll zoom into. But that's a tough brief. Sorry. Go ahead.
I think we're fortunate in the sense that we get daily feedback from so many candidates about what frustrates them and what they wish had happened that didn't happen, or the things that so we're able just to kind of take that and learn from it ourselves. We obviously make our own mistakes in the same process, but that's what, one of the things that we focus on a lot of as a business is collating that data and really pushing candidates for feedback and trying to understand with candidates what's important to them, why they've made a decision about taking a particular role and why they've joined a certain organisation. And then if we can use that internally as well, that's obviously a big help to us, but that's really great to hear.
Yeah, good question. So do we do behavioural tests as well as kind of technical tests of candidates? So it will be the technical test on site, and through the interviews with the people, we'll assess their kind of behaviour and their integration within the team. So no, to answer your question, it would be more tech-based. And I see that a lot less, especially with tech talent. It's more around, do they have the technical ability to be successful in helping us with our technical challenge? And also, will they be an amazing addition to our team and work side by side with the other engineers?
But one thing, one thing that we have done recently is potentially diverging onto a completely different subject here, which I don't really want to do, is we've stopped talking as much about cultures and more about values. And actually, because culture means very different things to different people, and values is more it's something that you can actually measure a bit more. So there's now somebody in each of our teams that will do a values-based interview that will actually talk more about what is this person's values, what's important to them as an individual, and that in part 3 here would form part of the kind of breakfast, lunch type piece of that on-site interview, where we would actually go a little bit more in depth about them as an individual and try and understand what makes them tick. Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I think, sorry, the question was, if I'm kind of summarising a little bit, but there's tons of recruitment technology like video interviewing and that sort of stuff, and we're actually kind of gone a bit retro and doing things a bit more traditionally. And yeah, I think it really is. If you want to, like what we found is developers and software engineers, they tend to be very hierarchical, and they really appreciate that face time with the CTO or the head of engineering or whoever it is. That means so much to them. And obviously they know that they're going to deal with recruiters in every interview process they go for, and that's fine. And it's not like they're anti-recruiter. But one thing, I don't want to steal your thunder, that's kind of coming up later is wherever possible in your hiring processes is to involve senior stakeholders within the function to talk to these candidates when you're closing them and when you're having the conversation, because we found that a lot is they value that exposure too, because it makes them feel like this person's taking me seriously, and he or she is more senior and more experienced than I am, but they've taken the time to talk to me and actually invest in my process. And that's with Nidhi, who is managing a team of 60, 70 people or something like that now. She'll still speak to every single candidate before they take a job, and that's a massive investment on her part because she's got a huge amount of stuff to do, but she will still make that effort because it helps us. The conversion rate of offers to accepted has improved a lot through her doing that.
Yeah, like where this was born, it was like, how can we remove like roadblocks, like speed up our process? And the tech test is just an unnecessary duration of time. Like we pride ourselves on like the average time to hire is 17 days. And so like that's kind of where it was born out of. And we're a very people-centric business. So spending a day with us is like super important. Kind of the last section for me really is like the overall theme is the faster the better. Like a bunch of research we've done is like the top 10% of talent will exit the market within the first 10 days. If about 20% less likely to close a candidate if the process goes over 21 days. Candidates won't just be interviewing with you. Like we've talked a lot around kind of like top talent will receive a lot of interview like offers early. And so the longer the duration of that, the kind of obviously the harder it is to close that candidate. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but like the rescheduling interview piece and the communication piece is just so important. Like the reason I almost didn't put that up here, but then I decided to because it's what my candidate speaks to me about all day, every day, is around kind of the frustration or like the kind of a lot of candidates I deal with like kind of feel quite upset around kind of like rescheduling of interviews or the lack of communication. They take it personally. It's like I don't feel kind of like significant enough or appreciated enough to not be updated on this process, or they have while there's probably a good reason, they feel that interview has just been rescheduled for kind of like the convenience of the hiring manager or whatever. And I know it's really, really tough as a hiring manager or as an internal recruiter to kind of move these processes along quickly. But if there's anything you can do or a commitment you can get from the hiring manager from day one, it's obviously around the commitment piece to scheduling and sticking to interviews. We'd love to talk about compensation up front. Like it shouldn't be this topic, or there shouldn't be a surprise at the end of the process where after like 17 days of hiring, all of a sudden we're completely misaligned around salary expectations. Like on Hired, like we have like full transparency around what candidates are looking for, and then the companies can reach out to them if that matches. And it's just a super kind of obvious and like quick way to kind of be on the same page from day one. And through, and we also say to candidates, like, that is the salary expectation you put up there. But, like, through your interviews and, like, through the assessment of, like, your kind of ability or, like, your appropriateness for that company, then your salary offer will be based upon that, including bonus and equity. So this whole salary piece, like, doesn't need to be a surprise at the end. Chat about it up front, and you'll see it kind of more streamlined. So
resonating with engineering talent, like I'm I don't know, I feel a bit old, but things are definitely different to when I started in recruitment 15 years ago, and you're hiring people and what's important to people and what people care about. I think engineers, particularly, software developers, they tend to be coming from a different generation that have kind of grown up and they expect different things. And we've done a lot of research into what's important to these candidates and actually what are the triggers, what are the motivations for them to actually join an organisation. Where we've seen companies fall down a little bit sometimes is, we're told to sell our company and you go, this is us, this is what we're doing, we're amazing. And I think it's great, the company is successful. You've, gone double-digit growth for the last 3 years. Like, lots of businesses do that in a good economy. It's how you treat your people. It's actually kind of that the message needs to be more personalized. Like, what are you about when it comes to, what's it like if I work for your company? How are you going to treat me? How am I going to feel? What's the environment like there? What's the, what are the values of the business? How am I going to be treated when I work there, rather than kind of bigging up the bottom line, performance? Because tech candidates don't really care about that. They want to come in and do cool stuff and help drive a business forward and be challenged and work on new technology. They don't really care how successful the company is at the end of it, if we're honest, compared to, say, a finance candidate would, because they're obviously going to be more risk averse. Millennials, there's a couple of surveys just coming up here. Learning and professional development and growth are twice as important than compensation as benefits. So just think of that. If you're reaching out to candidates that kind of fit this sort of criteria, is to be talking about the learning and the development and how, as an organisation, you can help people grow is far more important than just talking purely about compensation and benefits. So this was a Deloitte survey that was done last year. Top things that matter to employees, and this is people that qualify as millennials. So number one was good work-life balance. The other one that I've just mentioned there is opportunities to progress and to be leaders. And that's, I think those are two things there. And I know it's difficult because you're working within the parameters of all sorts of different shapes and size companies where you might have different policies. The philosophy from your CEO downwards might be quite restrictive. You can't just offer people this. But trying to kind of educate the business internally to your MD, to your CEO, that these are the things that if you want us to hire these types of candidates, this is the stuff that we have to sell. We can't just sell on the fact that we're a successful business anymore. We can't just sell on the fact that we tripled our turnover last year, because these candidates don't really care so much about. They would like some kind of work-life balance. They would like to know, progress, be leaders. And I would talk about that more on professional development. So what can you say to somebody about, if you join our organisation, this is how we're going to help you grow and learn. It could be days off to do courses, to learn new technology, to become a better developer, and actually investing in them. That's one of the biggest things that we hear about at Hired. And this is developers specifically within that group. And again, despite what people might think, look, compensation is very important. It's a very candidate-driven market. Unsurprisingly, money is always up there for developers at the moment. They know that they should get paid well, and they want to make sure that they don't get shortchanged in taking a new job. But the one at the actual top of the list is still professional development. And that kind of comes back to the point that we were saying before, which is the CTO being able to kind of jump on a phone call and say, do you know what, this is what I'm doing with my team at the moment. This is what I do in my one-on-ones with my developers in the team at the moment. This is how I talk to them about how I'm going to help them grow their careers, and how I don't just talk to them about their day-to-day jobs and if they're hitting their KPIs and milestones. I talk to them about how I want to help them grow as individuals, and that's the stuff that candidates are wanting to hear. When reaching out to people, we wanted just to put this in there because we obviously see hundreds of thousands of messages being sent to candidates across our platform on a yearly basis, and we've been able to look at the messages that get rejected and kind of spot common trends and why people turn down messages. Touched on this earlier, but too much focus on the company, not enough focus on the individual. So it's like you do have to sell. Like, don't get me wrong, it is a fine balance. You can't just go like, hi, I'm calling from a company you've never heard of before. Do you want to work for us? You do need to position your company and what you're doing and make it kind of subtle. But you need to balance that with focusing on that person and that you're treating them as an individual. And this isn't, even though we all know it is, a mass message that you're just copying and pasting. I get it. Like, that's what we have to do. But just to try and find a way to personalize the message a little bit in a way that you can actually manage. Not talking about the technology. These candidates are technical candidates. That's the biggest thing that they care about. If you're not referencing it about what you're doing or where you're going or how it's going to change in the future or what your CTO's vision is for the way the tech is going to evolve, it's difficult to grab their attention. And then generic, lacking personalization is the same as the first point. So yeah, being authentic, focusing on the tech stack, and being personal are the kind of key points. I'm not going to read through these messages because they're quite long. But those are the kind of key takeaways from there.
Cool, yeah. So kind of towards the end now. So in terms of like closing candidates, like I put these points up here, but like the most important thing for me is the offer call. So throughout the kind of interview process, when you kind of go to make the offer to that candidate, the companies that see the most success or kind of have the less kind of like pushback and like continued negotiations are the ones where they have people join that closing call. So like, for example, I've had a couple of candidates recently who have been receiving the offers, and the things that the people have been saying to them are like, hey, Gordon, like, so I'm Will, like, you know, we met throughout the hiring process. You're going to be working with me and my team. I'm here with Sarah, who you're going to be working with every day. And, you know, Sarah says that, like, she really enjoyed her time with you today, and we really want you to be part of the team. Like, that is just so much more compelling than, okay, so we're going to offer you this X amount of salary, these many days holiday, blah, 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 blah. For candidates, they kind of report back to me around the way you make them feel. So people will never remember the things that you say or do, but they'll always remember the way you make them feel. And if you've had an amazing hiring process for that candidate, this is just the icing on the cake. And we find that even like if the offer is like quite technical, or like I know not every company can offer equity, for example, but we have companies, the CFO will bring them up and say, hey, I'd love to like offer you a role in our company, da 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 da. This is what our equity looks like. Do you have some questions? And everyone's like, well, yeah, because I have no idea what that means. Tell me how much that's going to be worth, essentially. So having the CFO call you up, make that offer, having the hiring manager call you up and say, I want you to be part of my team. While they love the recruiter and the people they've met throughout the process, they're the ones that see the most success. And then just a couple of other obvious points around getting to yes. Like, candidates love it when you say, like, at this stage, like, what questions do you have? Or, like, why, do you have any concerns at this stage? Is there anything you want to talk about? Rather than going away, mulling it over, sleeping on it, not sleeping, and then ringing it up the next day and declining the offer. Like, live in the moment, like, questions and feedback seems to be most successful. And then the other piece is, like, Gordon's like talked about it a lot around these candidates are, like, so in demand, making that offer and giving them a week or two to kind of get back to you on about it is likely to be unsuccessful. Nonetheless, like, you do need to give them time. I think like anywhere within 5 days is like totally cool. So if you make an offer on a Monday or a Tuesday, like I think it's totally cool to say, hey, like should we chat again on Friday and get back to you? Because there will be in other processes. And you know, while candidates do want to join amazing brands, they actually are more interested in joining exciting technical challenges where they can grow and develop their technical skills. So I think, yeah, like giving them time and freedom, but actually being really, really clear on expectations on when you want to hear back from them.
Yeah, I just, to follow on to that, I think sometimes hiring managers, they get a bit offended because the person doesn't want to accept the offer right there and then. And it's like, well, you know, if she doesn't want to join the company, that's her loss, kind of thing. And the reality is with these candidates, you can't really take that approach. So it is a delicate balance. It's not a case of saying, oh, no, that's cool, you know, come back to us in a month or whenever you've made a decision. I appreciate you've got businesses to run, you can't do that. But educating hiring managers that this is what the market's like. You actually do need to let people have a bit of space, and you shouldn't be offended if they don't bite your hand off instantly for the role that you're offering them, because there is a lot of competition out there and they are going to be talking to other companies. So we're going to set a sensible deadline, which, you know, to Will's point, maybe it's 5 days, and if they don't get back to us by Friday, that's it. You know, the offer's off the table, but that's like a fair and sensible conversation that's hopefully a balance that lets the candidate know that you're prepared to be flexible as an organisation, let them go out there and find the right opportunity for them, which hopefully is going to be with you. But I hear a lot from clients of mine who are recruiters, that's the pushback they get from hiring managers is like, well, if that person's not interested, they can do one. It's like that's quite a costly attitude to take, because you're going to have to start all over again and then try and get someone else into that process, and the chances of them walking in the door and biting your hand off of the job and not looking at other stuff is pretty slim.
Yeah, and it could well be you have a candidate with 3, 4, or 5 offers, and so for the ones where they've gone, oh, cool, we want to offer you X, Y, and Z, so very black and white and clear on what the offer is. If you compare that to an offer where the CTO, the CFO, or like the management or the team have like rung you up on a video call, or all 3 of you are on a speakerphone to make that offer, like they're going to be the ones that are going to make the candidate feel the best. And I think it's like, it sounds kind of quite obvious, but like think about like how in demand that candidate's going to be. Anything you can do to make them feel amazing will support you with your offer. And I think the final slide is just kind of summarizing everything we said. So define what it is you need so you know when you found it. Keeping the candidates engaged and like moving super, super fast. Speaking their language. Talk about salary up front. But yeah, for me, like one of the most important pieces is that closing piece. And not forgetting to like sell as well. Like, you know, not, like I said before, not candidates won't want to join amazing brands. Like a lot of them will, but they'll want to join amazing teams of people who are working on a really exciting piece of technology, because it's not all about salary for them. It's all around like changing the world, mission-driven projects, building their skill set. That is like what our candidates are just saying to us all day, every day.
We've got data that we could share with you also that I know that helps having conversations, because you've actually got something that you can give to hiring managers and say, look, I've got some data to support what I'm saying. I'm not just making it up, because I do feel a lot of the time that, you know, recruiters are on the front line, you know the reality of it, and the people actually sat in the business just think that your job's easy and straightforward, and like, why haven't I got candidates? And it's just simply not that easy. So we're able to kind of support with any data as well to kind of help you having those conversations. I think that's us.
That's it, yeah. I'd love
really.
any more
so yeah,
questions.
thank you all very much. Anyone got any questions?